Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thanks for joining us on the stage door. I'm Erica Angus, the Executive Director at Theatre Collingwood, and I'm so glad to have you back with us here to hear the scoop, what happens behind the curtain. I have to thank the man who makes this all happen for us, and that is Tyler Cleary, our Wizard of Oz. Hello, Tyler. There he
Hello,
is. There's
hello.
little.
How
How
are
are
you,
you,
Erica?
Tyler?
I'm doing well, and yourself?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. How are you coping with the changing of the zone and all that sort of
Oh
thing?
my goodness. I mean, every day you're a new color, right? We're experiencing the rainbow, and I think that's wonderful in one way. But I don't know. We've kind of all hunkered down and got to really know our families, and they've really gotten to know us. So I think we're going into a new year, just everybody hating each other. So let's find some love, you know?
Well, and you know, Tyler, I got a cat during this whole thing.
Yes.
I adopted Bella. And there's a very good chance that Bella will just make her way onto the screen here at any moment. But that's how I have handled my, how can I word it? The fact that it's just my husband and I living together and we needed a diversion. So we got a cat.
Oh, Bella. And
No,
this was a rescue cat, right?
yeah. From I should say from Street Cats, which is an organization in Barrie. They do an amazing job. And Bella had a really rough, terrible, cruel life. And
Oh,
now she's in our home, and I love her so much. And I think she really loves me so much too. So we have coffee in
oh,
bed together in the morning.
oh my goodness. That's adorable. So everybody watching at home, prepare your bingo cards for Bella.
That's right. Could happen at any moment. You can't see. She's just to the left of me, but anything could happen. Um, Tyler, let's talk about Theatre Collingwood news.
All
I
right.
still don't have a jingle. I have to get, I don't know, I'll get Greg Gibson to do that
Ooh,
for me. Theatre
yes.
Collingwood news. Uh, we are so excited because what are we? We're like 48 hours out. Friday is when A Christmas Carol will be online. And, this has been a whole new experience for me to learn about the filming of a production. I've been working with Tom Sternad from Mountain Goat Film. He's amazing. We have six wonderful women. Of course, we've cast it with all women this year. I thought in this unprecedented year, we should do something different. And this is a staged reading. The women are fantastic. It starts on Friday at 7 p.m. And if you purchase a link for just $25, you can watch it anytime from Friday at 7 p.m. till Sunday midnight, actually. So tickets are for sale at theatrecollingwood.ca or by calling the box office at 705-445-2200. And then also on Sunday, we have another Christmas show that we're launching online, and that is Lisa Way's show, Rockin' Round the Christmas Tree. So that's it's a neat show. It brings me back to the old style Christmas variety show. And Lisa and the Wayward Wind Band will be rocking around and having lots of fun. And I think it's a great show for families. So, two really good Christmas shows happening. As of Monday, I think we will not be in the office for a couple of weeks, but we will be monitoring all those sales and telephone calls. So there'll be no problem accessing us, but the staff will actually be working from home for a couple of weeks. And then I also wanted to speak tonight a little bit. Actually, I got a little message from Valerie O'Brien, our amazing development manager, because we always like to talk about our sponsors or our corporate partners. And this week, what we want to talk about is our Dine and Play program. So these are restaurants and food companies around Collingwood that support Theatre Collingwood. They provide food for actors when they're in town. If we're doing a reception, they'll provide the food for it. And we do a little bit of advertising for them. Great relationship between the two. So we would like to highly suggest that when you're looking for a place to place a food order with or a wine order with, that you think about Georgian Hills Vineyard, the Roost Wine Company, wonderful Italian restaurant Tesoro, Dags Willows, which everyone knows is the most amazing cheese shop, plus they have other stuff, the Huron Club, and Prime 79. So thanks so much to those wonderful Dine and Play sponsors that we have in Collingwood. Please, please, please give them your business. So I'm very excited about our first guest, who a few years back decided that he would move to the region. And I'm so grateful that he reached out to me and said, let's get together and chat, because I love theater and I'm an actor, and let's talk all things theater. So welcome to Andy Dumas. How are you, Andy?
Hello, Erica. How are you?
I'm so glad you're here. And your house looks so beautiful and festive.
Yes, it's virtual. No, it's the real house. Thank you.
Looks wonderful. How are you doing? You're in a very snowy area.
Yes, I'm right near the old Talisman ski resort. Yeah. And you can see the old ski lifts right from my window here. So it's very snowy, very Christmassy.
Yeah, really picturesque. I remember coming out to your house, and it was not in winter. You were very excited about this wonderful house that you had purchased. But you hadn't gone through a winter, I don't think, in the region.
Everybody was going, oh wait, first winter, here it comes. And last year it wasn't that bad. It wasn't too bad. So we got through it. Got through my first winter. So I'm not.
It's so beautiful
anymore. Thank you.
Yeah, so beautiful there. That's wonderful. So Andy, I don't know where to begin with you, because you are probably one of the most interesting men that I have ever met. You've had quite a diverse career. And so maybe I have a sense that we should talk about the boxing part of your life first, because I think it came first way back even with your father.
Yes, my father was a professional boxer. And he was an older guy when I came along. So back in the day, do you remember the movie Raging Bull?
Yes, of course.
With De Niro, that fighter was Jake LaMotta. My dad was his sparring partner on many occasions. So growing up, there was boxing around the house, and my dad remained very, very fit even years after he quit boxing. So I kind of grew up with that, boxing around the house, and he showed me how to box. And even today, I don't box, I don't spar anymore, but that training still is a part of my training.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, you got into boxing, but you ended up turning that into another form of a career, in that you have developed a fitness program through it.
Yeah, it's I don't want to use the term boxercise from way back, which was an aerobic boxing thing. So the opportunity to take something that I love, which was a boxer's workout, and combine it with fitness, mainstream fitness. So it's an authentic workout, but for people that want to experience a boxer's workout, but don't want to get in the ring, don't want to get punched. So everything a boxer does, shadow boxing, skipping, hitting the heavy bag, working the punch mitts, that's all incorporated into a workout program that anybody could do.
And I wonder also if someone who is an elite athlete, or someone who has really done all those challenges at the gym and is looking for something different to motivate them. I mean, it's a different way to get the results that you want, right?
Absolutely. And it's different every time. And, somebody asked me, who used to come to your class? What's the demographic? And I said, 16 to 70. We had that age range coming out, and anybody could be successful at it. So, jump rope, one of the best ways to get in shape. If you're having a bad day, putting on your gloves and going a couple rounds on the heavy bag can certainly, get that out of your system. So it's really something at any fitness level that anybody can benefit from.
That's amazing. And we just saw a picture, maybe Tyler will put it up again, because you have a new book that you wrote with your wife, Jamie, and that's Jamie on the cover. Whoa!
There it is. I didn't make the front cover. I got delegated to the back cover, not the front cover. I'm on the back. That's okay. That's all right.
Okay, it's okay. That's an amazing photo of her.
There was many. This is the 6th book we've done, and with 4 different publishers. So you start going. You get asked to do a book, and you go, "Do I want to do that again? Do you want to revisit this material?" And if you're going to do it, you don't want to say the same thing. You want to improve. You want to make it better. So there were many photo shoots. We did 4 or 5 photo shoots. We ended up with 3,000 photos, and you narrow that down to about 400. Showing the various exercises and all to do. So
it's a huge process.
A lot of shots to get that done. Yeah.
Yeah. So the Ultimate Boxing Workout, how do people get the book if they want to purchase it?
Well, book number 6, and we had a European publisher, we had a US publisher. So finally we hooked up with a guy called Howard Astor of Mosaic Press. He's been in the business 45 years. And so it's our first book with a Canadian publisher. So, but it's available at Indigo and Amazon and all kinds of things. So we're very proud of it. Probably going to be the last book we're going to do. You start going, am I looking too old to do the fitness shots anymore? How much airbrushing do we need to do to actually look like we're doing this? So
I think that's a selling feature. That's a selling feature. You're not a young kid and you look fabulous. I just thought this could be a good Theatre Collingwood fundraiser. People could buy their books, and if they pay enough money, I'll get you to sign it.
There you go. Actually, the value will probably go down once I sign it. But yeah, I would definitely be up for that. Yeah.
Listen, did you hear, being a sportsy guy, about Walter Gretzky having some of his Wayne Gretzky paraphernalia stolen from him? So did you hear about this?
I did hear a little bit about that.
Yeah, so Wayne has always been really good about giving his father all this sports memorabilia. And his father is such an amazing guy. And he goes to these fundraisers and donates them. And, Wayne Gretzky stick or a sweater brings in good money for the various charities. And a couple of people, I guess, allegedly, who are friends and prominent people where he lives, stole stuff from Walter Gretzky. Can you imagine?
Who does that?
Who does
Gretzky's
that?
dad. Who steals from Gretzky's dad?
I have had the honor of meeting Walter Gretzky, and he's an absolutely delightful guy. And that leads me to the fact that you have met so many people, and one of which, Muhammad Ali.
That was one of the thrills of a lifetime, meeting Muhammad Ali. And it's funny how things work out. Was actually doing a documentary on Elvis and, the concert years, the Vegas years. And as we were shooting this, I knew at the Muhammad Ali Center in his hometown of Louisville, Kentucky, they had a robe that Elvis Presley gave Muhammad Ali. Same company that made his outfits, with all the jewels and all the stuff all over it. And they gave me permission to film it, to film the outfit, which is there. And I developed a friendship with the Ali Center. And they invited me out a couple times at events that Muhammad was at. An event called the Rumble Replay, which celebrated the Rumble in the Jungle and his 70th birthday. And I got to be there and, film the event for them and be around him and spend time with him. And it was just a phenomenal experience to meet him. It was a real thrill.
Quite an amazing person. That's for sure. Yeah.
He's the greatest of all times, for sure.
So wonderful. Okay, so who else have you met that really turned your crank?
Well, Well, this is more theater related than boxer. Have I ever told you the Marlon Brando story?
No.
This was anybody that's in theater and acts has probably had experience being an extra in something on a movie set. So I was a young lad. This goes back to 1990. And so I was doing some commercials and voiceovers. So I was kind of past the extra thing. And my agent says, there's a movie shooting. You might be interested. It's a continuity extra. It's 3 days. Do you want to do it? These are the people that are Matthew Broderick's in it. Maximilian Schell is in it. Bruno Kirby and Marlon Brando's in it. And I went, yeah, I'd love to do that. Now, apparently it was shot in New York, Port Credit, Ontario, and Toronto. So I was on this thing for 3 days. I got to hang out with Bruno Kirby and all the actors on the set. And you see Brando around, going from his trailer, going to makeup. You see him around the set, but I didn't get a chance to meet him. So on the third day, the last day of shooting, after lunch, I've got my outfit on. I played a waiter. I'm heading to the studio to shoot. He comes out of makeup and almost knocks me over, almost plows into me. And even though I'd seen him on the set for 3 days, I'd seen him around, what do? I blurt out, oh my God, Marlon Brando.
Is that what you're not supposed to do?
Exactly. And he smiles and he chats with me for a second and he goes, and what's your name? And I said, Andy Dumas. And he goes, oh my God, Andy Dumas. He was completely mocking me, obviously he knew I was nervous, to try to diffuse that a little bit.
Oh my gosh.
You know, there was no cell phones with cameras back then. I didn't get his autograph, but I had 9 or 10 minutes alone with him. And there was nobody around for some strange reason. And I'll never forget that moment with him. It was phenomenal. We just chatted and it was the coolest thing. And the best part was I got to go see him do a scene. And if you've seen the movie, The Freshman, it's a spoof on Don Corleone from The Godfather. So he was made up to look like that character. So not only meeting him was surreal, but seeing him look like Don Corleone from The Godfather was just crazy. So that was one of the thrills as well, meeting Marlon Brando on that set.
That's an incredible story. Incredible. So, Andy, how did the love for acting and theater come about?
I was a big ham. You know, it was funny. I heard somebody talk about Robin Williams. One of his favorite toys, he had a tape recorder, and he used to tape, before video, he would record characters on TV shows and try to imitate them. And I thought that was interesting because I used to do the same thing. So my mom put up with that, just having a big ham at home, doing all these character voices and acting like a fool. And I think that's kind of where it started. And just the love for probably going to see theater first and just wanting to be on that stage and wanting to have that magic.
We have some great photos of you in some of the shows you've been in. Maybe we'll get Tyler to put some of those up. Oh, what's that? That looks like a lecture.
It does, doesn't it? It looks like my stand-up, but no, I don't do the stand-up. That was something at Burlington Performing Arts Center promoting one of our shows. I think it was Run for Your Wife.
Right.
That we were doing. So we had a little skit. We're actually doing 2 minutes of the show for the audience. It was a little teaser that we were doing.
It's a great photo.
Thank you.
And I'm wondering if, Tyler, have you got some of the group photos there? There's a couple of great scenes. You've got now this actually you weren't in, but this is Andy loving to meet all of the actors of the world.
You know what that was? We had done Christmas Carol with you, directed by you last year. We did that on a Friday, I believe. And the next day, it was very surreal. After being in the radio program, I got to go see it. It was closing night of the Shaw Festival doing Christmas Carol. It was very surreal. And at the end of the show, you're invited up. I was the first one running up there. I think I knocked over a 5-year-old. Let me get on there first. No, I was the first one up there. And you got to hang with the cast, and it was closing day, so I got to chat with them, and it was just a lovely experience. So I certainly hope they do that again once we're back live. We can jump on stage with the cast. It's
interesting because I think at Shaw, where Shaw typically has a very strong summer season. And when the weather's good, people go to Shaw. And then they decided to do some winter productions. And lo and behold, people really love going there in the winter time. And when we're not in this COVID time, it's hard to get a room in Niagara on the Lake in the winter now when those shows are on. So it's such a great thing.
It's become a real tradition because I think their season used to end kind of October.
Yeah.
And now that they've extended it, and I think they did Holiday Inn. We're going to do Holiday Inn and Christmas Carol. So I think it's a great thing. It's a great tradition. Anyone, hopefully next year, get a chance to go down and see it. But we get to see yours next week, your version too.
Yeah, for sure. And that was super fun when we did it last year, Andy. We were at First Presbyterian Church, which was a beautiful setting to do the staged reading of A Christmas Carol, and you jumped right in there. And it was really a successful first annual reading of
First annual. That was a lot of fun. And we did it, we had one rehearsal, didn't we? I mean, that we pulled together. We did it in a group and just everything just clicked. It was wonderful.
Sometimes I'm just looking at this photograph here. Maybe you can tell us about that.
That was a British farce called Don't Misunderstand Me. And I play brothers. And real quick, I show up, my brother tells me that he's been having a little bit of a fling, and I find that hilarious. And the rest of the show is him trying to dodge this situation that he's in. And this is the end of the show when something's been put into his drink and he's a little bit out of it, leading up to the climax of the show. Yeah.
And I think you love a good British farce, right?
I do. Hopefully you'll let me do something someday with a British accent. I'm always working on it.
So we'll elaborate on that. When I tend to I don't want to hear a British accent unless it's a good British accent. So when we decided we were going to do A Christmas Carol, I came in and crushed your spirit, I think, because I said, okay, nobody's going to speak with a British accent. Well, it was all community members.
It was quite a long monologue. So you let me keep it for the opening segment. When I was the nephew or something, and you let me do a little bit, but you indulged me a little.
Yeah, but that was really fun, and I really appreciated that, Andy, and for sure we'll do something together again soon. So what's coming up for you? Are you staying huddled in your house over the holiday season? Are you reading any good books?
Huddled in the house looking for some books, because usually we're studying scripts. We're looking at scripts, trying to memorize lines. So I'm looking for some good books, and playing a lot of tennis, playing tennis up at Blue Mountain. So keep the courts open. It's a whole lot of fun. So yeah, and you forget what you're doing for those 2 hours when you're in the court.
And you have an actor friend who is a phenomenal baker.
Yes, I do.
Now, yes, my question is, did you get any of the Christmas baking before?
No, there was none. There was none this year. None. So there's a little bit of withdrawal from the yummy treats going on. So the normal get-togethers haven't happened. So next year for sure. Yeah, exactly.
And so, Andy, if you were working on your next play, what would your choice be?
We had looked at something, it was called Looking, and it was a Norm Foster play with 4 people. And it looked like this was going to go in Hamilton, at the Hamilton Guild. We had a cast, we had a director, and we actually had one rehearsal. So, you start getting the lines down, and then big disappointment. So I'm hoping someday we get to do that show somewhere.
I think you raised a really good point too about, or maybe it's just making me think of a good point, that the idea of those smaller casts may be exactly what we're looking at post this pandemic time, because even at this point, you could pretty well bubble together, so having a smaller cast is maybe what we'll all be looking at.
Interesting. And there's another one I was looking at called Night at the Theater, I believe it was. And there's no blocking. There's 4 seats. The actors come in and they're watching a play and they're talking as the play is coming on. And I went, wow, there's absolutely no blocking, because they just come in and sit down. Very interesting how you try to make that dynamic. Oh, it's
you could rehearse that on Zoom.
Exactly. Nobody moves. What's the blocking again? Just sit down and stay there.
Yeah, exactly. So no more boxing books in the future?
there might be one in there floating around in the brain somewhere a little bit. There's always, every time I go, I'm done. I tell my friends, listen, hit me on the back of the head if I say I'm doing another book, and nobody's done that yet. So there might be one more in there.
Oh, good. And before we have to finish, we have to talk about Mike Tyson. What a guy.
Yeah, lucky to have met him. Lucky to have met a lot of champions that I grew up watching. Sugar Ray Leonard, Muhammad Ali, Mike Tyson. And he just had a fight. I don't know if you heard about this. At 54 years old, kind of made a comeback. And he's starting this Legends tour. And I think it's going to turn into other things where maybe old tennis legends might play each other, not just boxing. So he actually fought about 2 weeks ago, fought a guy called Roy Jones Jr., who was another big fighter, famous in the 90s. And they went 10 rounds. Tyson got himself in fantastic shape. I thought it was going to be a farce. I thought it was going to be a joke. And it was really something to watch. So it's great to see that he's turned his life around and making a success out of himself.
Yeah, truly. That's for sure. A very interesting man.
It was great to meet him in Las Vegas, and he didn't even nibble on my ear or anything. So it was great. I was a little disappointed, but
Well, Andy, it is a pleasure as always to see you. I love talking theater with you. I love hearing about all of your boxing extravaganzas. So have a very happy holiday season, and
pleasure.
We'll definitely chat more about our next project in the new year.
Thank you. Would love to be directed by you one day. Merry Christmas. Big virtual hugs for you.
Virtual hugs. I brought my Santa and my polar bear.
And your polar bear.
All right. Thank you so much, Andy. Thank you. All right. Well, that was exciting. I love getting together with Andy. He's always a great storyteller. So that was lots of fun. Now, my next guest, I have known for a long, long time. He may not know this, but I knew him when he was a pretty young man. But he has turned into one of the most interesting artistic producers that we have in Canada and highly respected. And so, Mr. Arkady Spivak, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Well, I had no choice, and this is how I love to live my life, and do the same to you.
Yes, you absolutely had no choice.
I'm actually delighted to be here because I had an evening free, and I'm thinking, what am I going to do with myself? And then an invitation came in.
Talk to Erica.
Talk to Erica. I was going to talk and gossip with you on the phone, so we might as well do it openly.
Right. Now we have to watch what we say.
Not really.
Arkady, I first knew you when you were the kid, basically, that was working in the box office at the Georgian College Theater. Was that for Griffin Theater? Was it Griffin then? Or?
That's right. I was one of the 2.5 employees at the theater.
Yeah.
And I still am. Of my own, though. I still sit in the box office.
Yeah, exactly. But at that time, you were probably, I have a sense that probably all your life you knew that one day you would end where you are now, but you came up with an incredible vision for a theater company. So maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
Oh, God. It's not that I had a vision. I didn't know any better, and because you don't know any better, everything is possible. And to this day, I think one of the most exciting things about being in this community, on paper, it feels like Simcoe County, whether Collingwood or Barrie, is a disaster zone for culture. It's where, opportunities go to die, or so people think, outside of us or south of us, not so much north of us, but south of us. And really, the complete radically opposite is true. I think the challenge is not that we don't have good cultural visions, organizations such as you and I are working for, but I think it's because the sports take such dominance on radio waves, television. We have Barrie Colts, and so the iconic status of the community is through the sports. But that's not to say that the arts are not here. and some of the most wonderful people that you go through the inventory, never-ending the inventory of Canadian theater artists or well, let's say theater artists, because that's what you and I know. They've all come through our organization, sometimes more than one, and you sort of wonder, well, then, it's one of the most supportive communities and economies. Community didn't know it was going to become an economy, but it did. So the vision really, and it took me quite a while to sort of put it on paper, and that is, we really do programming that is more associated with a big, large urban center, Toronto, let's say, for a new non-urban audience.
Right.
And within that, it's all sorts of things. It's going all over the map. It's new plays, new looks at old plays, funky things such as doing a show on the bus, musicals that are not done often but are important to do. All sorts of, we go right over, and we've performed in a Iqaluit where there are no property lines, not even on the bus, but on a minivan, because there were no buses even, let alone it, and all the way to Melbourne, Australia, and everything. So,
well, I think, Arkady, what you have done is, first of all, the fact of not, if you didn't have a theater to perform in, a space, a facility, that was never something that was going to stop you in any way. And really, I think back of when oh my gosh, I've seen your productions in so many spaces, but I think of, for example, Molson Park, where basically in that scenario, you created a theater space in what was, I think, a drive-through beer pickup store in Barrie. Who does that?
Right in the cellar too. Getting the place cold in the summer was immediate. It's just like everybody's toupee flew off, like the fridge things came in, and it people froze to death.
That was a very interesting space. I remember when, I think, did you also have a space really in a mall?
When didn't we have a space?
You were all over the...
Where Owens, we still are. But I think I have to say, nothing sets you up on the right foot like beginning without any money and without a building. Because I think, and this is where COVID, I didn't actually know, but I was actually building a theater for the pandemic.
Yeah.
Because, social distancing, some of the place, you've been a supporter a long time. I've invented social distancing 20 years ago. And suddenly it's like, oh, social distancing. I'm thinking, why did it take 20 years? And now there are subsidies and things like that.
Okay, so I'm going to say that if anybody doesn't understand what the heck you're talking about, one of the greatest things about you, Arkady, is that you're so brilliant in your knowledge of plays and your passion for putting on a really interesting story in an interesting way. What you do, at least it's my perception, is more about making that happen than making sure that the seats are necessarily all filled. It's lovely when that happens, that the seats are all filled, but your intention is to produce something that is incredible quality. And sometimes there's not always lots of people there.
And that's perfectly. I think you have to go into risk knowing what it is. I think everything deserves a right. Anything you believe in deserves the right to be seen, to see an audience. But you have to be realistic in terms of what audience you're talking about. If it's a new play, then you only budget 30 seats per night, and you hope that if it's more, it's going to be better. If, however, you're doing a major commercial work, if you're doing Cats, for example, then the fact that you sold 400 tickets a night is not really success, And in fact, people say, I sold 4 hours on Cats. I'm like, yes. It would be like, I woke up in the morning and brushed my teeth.
Yeah, of course. Of
you know,
course.
and what I like about you is that as a presenter who is rather limited because you cannot initiate by the way it's new work unless you collaborate with other people
Yeah.
and this, you actually take tremendous risks, you know, because presenters are all about, oh, you know, look at what everybody else is doing, and I'm thinking, wow, but you do your own thing, which
Well, thank you very much.
as you know, for me, it's that's what I do too. You know?
Do you
It's
think
like,
it's my maturity?
sure. Well, no, it's not
And
a
a
maturity.
wonderful board that trusts me.
Well, speaking of boards, you know, there are in our communities, Barrie, Collingwood, there is pretty much anybody who is anybody, and I mean it as an impact thing. I don't mean it as a prestige thing.
Yeah.
Have associated with one or two or sometimes more culture organizations.
Yeah.
You know, they may or may not like what we do from a show-to-show basis, but they know where they support where we're going, and you don't
And I
get
think
that.
that's something that you have, and I mean, I've learned a lot from you too. I think you have had extremely loyal supporters, people who, in one way or another, you were able to communicate to them that you were going to produce a high quality production. And so you have some very loyal supporters that I know have been with you for years and years and years and years. And that's really terrific. But certainly the proof is in the pudding. And I'll tell you, this summer, as far as I'm concerned, you really proved it, because obviously, I don't know, was it summer or fall when you did the
September.
September. So yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, obviously we could not have performances inside with people gathering. So you chose to do a series of plays outside in people's backyards. And I was lucky enough to attend several of them, and they were absolutely...
Because they were in your backyard.
There was two in my backyard.
Oh, you made it sound as though you drove somewhere. You were thinking you were in the kitchen. Yeah, you did. In all defense, you were in the kitchen stirring your tea and like watching a play. I mean, I'm thinking that's practically theater by delivery.
You know, honestly, that was the greatest gift you could give me, where I could just almost walk down in my pajamas with like a little flask of coffee with like booze in it and sit in my garden and watch the show. But anyways, how did that come about? It was brilliant, and so inspiring or reassuring to see people coming out during the pandemic, sitting outside watching some great theater.
Well, thanks. I really sort of looked at it and said, you know, first of all, there is a difference between safety and fear. We are sort of confusing, and there are ways of doing what we do in an ultra safe way, as much as possible, both for the audience and for the artists. You know, unfortunately, our profession is not entirely understood by governments or that sort. So there wasn't really a procedure that made sense for everyone, other than to say no live performance could be had. And so what we did, what we always have, I never think of theater as a venue, as a building. I always think of theater as a gathering of purpose. And what is our purpose? Our purpose at that particular moment was to congregate at all costs, whether it's 5 people with spread chairs or 10, that doesn't matter. And hear stories that are inspired by the time we are living in and completely ignoring the time we are living in at the same time, as in life happened before, life is happening now, life is happening. We might be a bit restricted in what we can do. But are we really? You know, all that happened is that I built my own 6 venues without building them. I'm like, Erica, this is when we're coming in, cut your flowers, wipe your house, you know, make sure you don't have any guests, or if you have guests, make sure they're socially acceptable.
Yeah.
Like, because I don't want my people to run it Not that you would have not socially acceptable guests, but
I have to tell you that a play that is a favorite of mine and an actor that's a favorite of mine, of course, is Beneath Spring Hill with Bo Dixon.
yeah.
And, I have seen that production and have brought that production into Collingwood in a theater, in a space with sets and all of this. And you had that production outside. It was the most magical experience being outside, seeing that production, which is, for those who haven't seen it's a very heart-wrenching play about, obviously, the mining disaster in Spring Hill, Nova Scotia. And first of all, the set, which was very simplistic, was so incredibly stunning outside. And then with Bo and the physicality of that show and what he had to do outside. And then, obviously it's about a mining disaster where one is separated from everyone else. And here we are all dealing, it was extremely emotional. I thought it was an incredible piece of work, Arkady.
Thank you. And again, you sort of started this wonderful person. I'm talking about taking risks, and I'm thinking, okay, what am I going to do? And then Bo did a Facebook version of it. And I don't really like watching theater.
Careful,
I detest it, if I have to be honest. And that's downplaying.
We all do. This isn't what we want.
I love this kind of engagement pieces, board meetings, conferences. This kind of stuff is amazing by Zoom completely. But to pretend that theater is all about content, theater is not content. It's, as I said, gathering of purpose, us contributing to a convention. And if you're performing and I can go to the washroom and then talk on the phone and wipe my floor, and I'm not going to put myself on the line while I do that. That's they both have to commit to it, or it doesn't work.
That engagement.
That's right. We have to both bear our vulnerability to the thingy.
Yes.
And so and I looked at the time and what this is all about, the isolation of it, the history of it. Bo is being a member of our company. He was actually a musical director in the previous show, and he has a residence in Innisfil. So you sort of go, well, if there makes a sense to go, to bring back the first post-pandemic or in the pandemic.
You don't have to billet him because.
No, I didn't. He basically walked to work. I forbade him to walk on Big Bay Point Road. That doesn't have any sidewalks. I'm like, you're going in a car and Anyway, but of course the challenge it was in one of the most lavish residences of Barrie from our great supporters, John and Bob Gilroy. Beautiful, one of the most wonderful. And I'm thinking, how would I put a play about impoverished, down on his luck miners in a residence like this? But then you have a brilliance of Joe Pagden as a designer, who, in fact, what people did not see. I love watching this from the behind because. Behind the audience, because what people didn't realize, they were actually designed into the show as audiences. They were designed into the show. I'm like, oh God, it's going to be very difficult to go into a proper theater building and put ourselves through what is known as Tech Week. And
I agree, Arkady. I really agree, and I was so inspired by what you did. And we had tried to do a little porchside concert, just a little concert. And unfortunately, the numbers got brought down and we weren't able to go ahead with it at the time that we were doing it. But one of the things we're working on at Theatre Collingwood for the spring is to do, we have these gorgeous historic homes in Collingwood with beautiful verandas. And I thought there's got to be a way that we can have a festival celebrating not only great pieces of theater work, but placing them on these wonderful architectural gifts that we have in Collingwood as well. So that really came from being inspired at those performances that you put on this year. And really, I felt in the audience, you could feel the energy of everyone around you, just almost making a collective sigh that, you know, okay, there may be a pandemic, but we've still got this. We've still got
It's not even maybe, there is, you know.
Yeah. Okay, there's a pandemic.
we're pretty aware. But, you know, thank you. And the one thing I just want to add, you know, it's not that we deliberately want to go into smaller or limit our audiences or anything. No. It's just that the whole artistic enterprise is there to take a risk. It's an investigation. It's sort of like, you know, a scientist looking for that molecule or whatever, except that we have to do it in front of people. We immediately commit to finding something as artists, and that's very, very tricky. So it's not to say that anything that doesn't sell tickets is better art than something that does. And no, absolutely not. There are some things that don't have an audience and neither should, you know? Yeah. So it's not as simplistic as that, but I think, you know, in order for us to actually have a meaning to the community in which Barrie or Collingwood in which we are, there has to be an element of risk that we have on behalf of the city. We have to go, what if, or I have an idea, or, and what our boards, our corporations, our communities go, show it to me.
Yeah. And that's exactly what happened with Tales of an Urban Indian.
Yeah.
When you decided to do that, and you went to the city of Barrie and said, you know, I'd like you to give me a bus. that took an element of a leap of faith on their part to say, yeah, we see what you're talking about.
Well, they had no choice because it was Tales of an Urban Indian was a closing show of our. They also were very supportive. I don't want to, you know, I can't take on the entire city. I can only go break one or two people at a time. So, you know, we had it as a closing production of 2009, I want to say. Yeah, it was of a closing production of our season, to which season tickets were sold. And they tell me 2 months earlier that they have to demolish the building because they have to, they got funding for the new theater, but it has to be in the ground by a certain time or they lose federal funding, you know. And I completely understood their sucks to be me, but I completely understood their dilemma. Yeah. And I was talking to a wonderful man who is a mentor, who was the founding chairman of the theater, Joe Anderson. And I was screaming, not at him, but to him. I'm like, all I want is a venue. I'm not even asking for favors. Yeah. And then we were in a diner on Dunham Street, whatever it was. And then there was just a massive snow that it was like March that flew into the window and it was very frightening. I thought somebody hit the building. I'm like, what was it? Oh, it was just a bus. Relax, you're too tense. As we were talking, I'm like, And so I went to the city. I'm thinking, if you can give me a theater, you have to give me a bus, and you're also going to pay for fuel and everything and all those things.
But this play had never been done on a bus before.
No, it hasn't. So I had to persuade Herbie Barnes, who was our director, and Daryl Dennis, who was a playwright and the first person who was slated to do it as an actor. It was a show of his. And they were sort of, you know, they are improv comedy troupe. They were friends, and you know, they do theater and they're trained to do theater anywhere. So for them, it was like, okay. And then we made the route be consistent with the story. So when the bus went to Vancouver, Barrie downtown, totally were more than excited to be Vancouver. You know, we had all sorts of things. The police took the bus over. They thought it was hostage taking one time. All sorts of wonderful thing. And you have Craig Lazone, who was the second last actor to play it. We now have wonderful Brendan Chandler taking on the role. And Craig, we were doing a little reading this afternoon with him as well. And he is in it. And this photo, believe it or not, is from Australia. It's from Brisbane, Australia. And I think it's the 500th performance.
Oh my goodness.
And the reason how you see the stage manager is sitting on the left and the bus driver is on the right. That's how I knew it was in Australia. So poor man had to reconfigure so he didn't exit through the window accidentally because the door.
Right. So
So
the wonderful thing, that show went all over. Not only did it come to Collingwood.
It still is. We toured it in the pandemic to Grand Prairie, Alberta in October. I had to put...
For anyone who hasn't seen it, it too, I keep talking about, you know how I feel about you, but it was a play that the first time I saw it, I just was so taken emotionally by it, wanted to like run off the bus kicking and screaming. And that run, I think I saw it 3 or 4 times because I had to keep coming back and watching it. I was so intrigued by the fact that, you know, we as passengers on the bus were all sort of part of it and experiencing this person's journey as we all journeyed together on the bus. And it was amazing. And I couldn't wait till I could convince you to let me have it over in Collingwood.
And thank you. You took such faith on it. And, you know, and the character is how one wonders how pressing is his story that he actually had to seize the bus to tell it.
Yeah.
You know, and what do we actually know about a person standing next to us on the bus? Like, what are they about? You know, is it, do we think what we know, or do we know what we, you know, all sorts of things, and the whole journey. And, you know, the wonderful thing about the show is when we did it in 2009, it was, oh my God, what a funky concept. And now the conversation of the play had gotten extremely more pressing and enlightened. And I've never had a show that ran for such a long, I mean, we don't do it all the time. We sort of whip it out when there is.
Yeah. Well, it's also, it's a, you know, it's one of those stories where we think we know someone, but we don't necessarily know someone. We don't know, or we don't know how they became who they are today. And it's an amazing piece of work. And
did we give them the opportunity to say what they needed to, you know?
Yeah.
If we did, and they did, and we don't like it, that's one thing. If we didn't, then...
Yeah, the other thing I thought, Arkady, too, was that there are many parts of the dialogue in that although one might think they have a very different life from that person, there are similarities. There's that love of the grandmother. There's, you know, those things that we all can relate to, that I think are so touching in that story. It was a fantastic piece. Let's talk about, so over the years, you've done so many interesting plays. Can we talk about one that was particularly intriguing to you, or an adventure for you? What would be one of your favorites?
Oh, I
think what we've talked about.
I think I have to claim a little bit of that in every one of them, because although not everything is necessarily to your satisfaction as perfect and what is perfect, there is always an element of what did I learn from it, what did I discover, who did I discover, and you know, and you
worked with some really amazing.
Yeah, thank you. The two, if I can pick the two, just not to be, you know, the two most, just because of their size.
Two of your babies which are your favorite children?
Like, which one do I feed to the dragon? I mean, I don't know. They all can go. No, it's. I think the two in the recent, no offense to them, but just by their size and their ambition, not ambition, their vision, was when we did a 3-day immersive experience that started in Barrie and took people to London, UK, literally as part of the narrative. And it included a major musical, a secret musical that was part of it. So just to work on two continents, two different aspects of like immersive, like a spontaneous work, and that was just massive in its scope.
And basically your audience member had the opportunity to start with the production in Barrie, I think, and then travel to the UK.
And they were part of the story. There was no audience. They were, in fact, the main protagonist, you know, in their own journey. And then the second one was we did in the summer, and it was a dare given to us by National Arts Center in Ottawa through Grand Acts of Theater to do like a big community event, not a play, but theater moments, large-scale theater moments that brought a meaning to our time. And so obviously I went to the crazy and wonderful and brilliant Mitchell Cushman, who directed the Secret musical that you see here. I'm like, okay, so this is what we're going to do. And he also has an immersive company in Toronto called Outside the March. We went and then he put together, he proposed to work with Anahita Debonahi, his longtime collaborator, designer and director and conceiver. And they created a bubble wedding. Specifically, it was a wedding ceremony. People were inside Zorbs, sort of a brand for full human-size water ball, they're called. So you're inside the ball, and so the wedding party was inside. So it was total social, COVID thing. It was beautiful imagery. We did a film out of it, which went viral, and it's been viewed like 1,300,000 times on Facebook. So is it like a community event? Is it a play? Is it a film? What is it?
I had forgotten about this and I didn't see it, but now that you're talking about it, I want to see it.
Speaking about social distancing, or social distancing in the theater, the greatest audience we've ever had was during a pandemic.
Yeah.
You count like 43 people in your play and suddenly there are over 1 million watching what you did in a pandemic. And so, it was called Something Bubbled, Something Blue. The community actually thought that there was a real wedding. And for the purposes it was, but it wasn't. And it's just everybody were inside the ball, including a violinist. And then
oh my God.
My favorite image looking from the drone and people like billiards in the ball were walking around. It was just amazing. We had a great videographer, Cameron Carver, and choreographer on it. So
it's incredible. And I agree with you. It would be very difficult to put your finger on your favorite production because you've done so many. And I want to just take the time to, first of all, thank you for all the support you've given me and the advice you've given me over the years.
It should be the opposite. You're like, I don't think there's anything I haven't hit you yet, including your house.
Here's the question. Can we go back to Prince Edward Island sometime together and have lobster?
Can you imagine? I think about it often.
We were able to be at a packed conference together, and that was truly a joy. But I want to encourage anyone who is viewing the show this evening, who, especially our friends that live in Collingwood and in South Georgian Bay, that Barrie is a very short little ride. Many of you know I do it every day, and I highly recommend the trip over to Talk is Free Theater because the work that you're doing there, Arkady, is so amazing and well worth driving over to see when we're back doing that sort of thing.
Thank you. It was same to you. I mean, it's just so wonderful to connect with you on the phone and that lobster, I'll never forget. I mean, we're calling it, we went to packed conference, but really, how many times did we go inside and we were like, let's do lobster. Oh, we haven't explored ice cream. We were coming up with different things.
We were like the bad kids who leave the classroom to go. But at Prince Edward Island, it's just a cornucopia of amazing things to do and experience. And one can't stay in a classroom for very long.
We did stay, and then we picked up what we missed. We talked to people, and they told us this is what happened. Okay, fine.
We better not tell any more secrets. Anyways, my friend, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy life. I wish you the happiest of holidays, and call me and we'll gossip.
I'm calling you in 10 minutes.
All right, Arkady Spivak, thank you so much.
Thank you for everything, Erica Angus, and congrats to you as well.
Thank you. Thank you. So, folks, thank you so much for joining us again. I can't believe that we've come to the end of our show. I knew that it would fly by. I could talk to both of these gentlemen for hours and hours and hours. Of course, I love talking about I love talking, but especially about theater. Our next show will be December 30th, Wednesday, December 30th, where we'll be able to celebrate the new year together. So I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Tyler Cleary, and I hope that you'll all be enjoying A Christmas Carol this week. Our stage production with Theatre Collingwood, just call the office to get your link, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Between now and then, have a very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and stay
The ultimate boxing workout. Boxing is the ideal workout for fitness and conditioning. No wonder more and more people around the world, both women and men, are discovering how to stay fit through boxing exercises. The ultimate boxing workout replicates the most beneficial elements of a boxer's workout to maximize results in the shortest amount of time. It's fun, effective, and dynamic, and includes routines that cover all aspects of boxing training. Here at last, both women and men will find boxing and fitness in perfect balance. Get the Ultimate Training Book, available now at a special price from Mosaic Press.